Thank you, Chairman. We are now live.
Okay, when you settle down, Councillor Wollaston, I will commence. Well, good evening and welcome to you all at the Western Area Planning Committee tonight. I'm Councillor Phil Barnett, the Chairman of Western Area Committee. Other members of the committee joining me tonight is my Vice Chairman, Councillor Clive Hooker, Councillor Adrian Abbs, Councillor Tony Vickers, Councillor Anthony Aberfarage, Councillor Howard Williston, Councillor Dennis Gaines and Councillor Nigel Foote. The following officers are attending to advise and support the meeting. To my right, Deborah Instron, Planning Team Manager. Matthew Shepherd, Senior Planning Officer, over to my far right. Next door to him is Paul Goddard, Team Leader of Highways Development Control. I think that's what you call yourself now, don't you, Paul? Paul Bacchus is not present at the moment. He is due to come, correct? And we hope that he will be in attendance, because obviously I would imagine there's a few questions should be directed at him. Hopefully he'll be here at some stage shortly. To my left, Sharon Armour, the legal advisor. Is Paul coming in now? Welcome to you, Paul. We've just started the meeting. The clerk is Darius Arazel, to my left, and the Zoom host, Thomas Radburn. I'll just let you settle down, Paul. Okay, and then I'll recommence. Before we start this evening's meeting, I would like to take the opportunity to remind members that we are subject to the Council's Code of Conduct, which requires us to uphold certain standards, importantly, respect. Members across the chamber might not always agree with one another, but I would ask that in our disagreements, we endeavour to always be respectful of other persons' views. Tonight, if we do hear the evacuation alarm, we must leave the building immediately. Please proceed via a safe emergency exit route and please follow any instructions given by officers. The assembly point is at the rear of the Dolphin Pub, and I would imagine probably members of the public do know where that is, or at least I hope so. If the lockdown alarm sounds, we will remain seated and await further instructions from officers. We will then adjourn the meeting until such a time it's safe to proceed. Do members have any questions about the way the meeting is to be conducted before I proceed? No, probably nods of head. Okay. Moving on then to item 1. Darius, apologies.
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies for absence from Councillor Paul Dick.
Okay, thank you very much. And then perhaps we can move to item 2, and we've got 2 sets of minutes. The meeting held on the 3rd of October and the 23rd of October. So first, the 3rd of October. Any comments on those minutes, please? Therefore, proposal? Seconder? Yes. Right. Proposed by Councillor Dane, seconded by Councillor Hooker. All those in favour? Moving on to 23rd of October. Again, any comments? No. Can I have a proposal for those minutes? Right. Councillor Wollaston, seconded by Councillor Hooker. All those in favour? Okay. And Councillor Vickers, I would imagine you weren't present. Councillor Gaines. Oh, you wasn't present either, Councillor Foote. Okay. I'm going to sign the minutes at the end of the meeting. Is that correct, Darius? Okay. Right. Now, moving round the table, declarations of interest. Going round the table, starting with Councillor Foote.
Thanks, Chair. Just the usual one of, I'm a Newbury Town Councillor as well as West Berkshire Councillor. Thanks.
None from me, Chair.
None, Chair.
No, Chair, nothing for me. Also, member of Newbury Town Council Planning and Highways Committee, but not on the committee that considered these applications.
Nothing from me, Chair.
Only that it's my ward, and I'm also a Greenham Parish councillor and the application sits within Greenham Parish. However, I've not been lobbied and won't be talking this evening in that capacity.
Okay, and from the chair, obviously I'm a councillor for Newbury Town Council on its Planning and Highways Committee, but obviously I will weigh up the evidence in front of us tonight and vote accordingly if it's appropriate. I'm also a member of Greenham Parish Council, but I believe I wasn't present the night when these two applications were discussed. Okay, members, we now move on to item 4. But before we move on to item 4, I would just highlight, especially to members of the audience, which perhaps have not normally present at these such meetings, I will briefly explain the procedure that we will follow. When we start the item 4, little 1, the first application, officers will present the application to the committee, after which the following groups might wish to make representations, and that will be for a maximum of 5 minutes. It will start with the parish or town council representatives. It will then continue on with objectors and supporters, and then the applicant or the agent or both, as the case might be, will be given the chance to do a presentation, followed on by ward members. The committee members will then have an opportunity to ask questions of clarification of the speakers, and then also members will have the opportunity to ask questions of the officers. And then, of course, the committee will then debate the item in front of us before determining the application. Now, moving on to item 4 in the brackets 1, 24/0037/FUL-MAJ, land at the south of Newbury College and north of Highwood Copse School, Highwood Copse Way, Newbury. And I'm going to hand over to the case presenting officer, Deborah Instrom. Okay, Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just share my screen. Apologies for the delay. I'm just sort of screen. Thank you. This application seeks outline permission for the erection of a primary care centre and associated works. The proposal would provide a new facility to replace the existing Eastfield House Surgery, which is currently located at 6 St John's Road, Newbury. This application for planning permission has been brought to this committee for determination as it was called in by the ward member, irrespective of officer's recommendation. A summary of consultee responses and representations received can be found in section 4 of the report. It is noted that the representations received have been received from a total of 8 contributors, 3 of which object and 5 which support. The application site is approximately half a hectare of greenfield land at Newbury College, north of Highwood Copse Primary School and south of the existing college buildings. To the north of the application site is an area of open land beyond which is the built-up form up to approximately 10.5 metres in height of Newbury College. is located on higher ground than the application site. To the northeast of the application site is the existing Castle School, which is a single-storey building. To the east of the application site is open land, which has recently been granted planning permission for a food store, up to 75 dwellings and residential care accommodation containing up to 70 beds. The proposed residential care accommodation is to be provided across 2 buildings up to 10 metres and 12 metres in height and would be located directly to the east of the application site. I'll just move my cursor. So just here would be the care home. To the west of the apologies. Highwood Copse Primary School is set on lower ground than the application site and is a single-storey building and is approximately 7.5 metres at the highest point. I'll talk you through the photos. The photo that you can see here is a view of the application site looking north from Highwood Copse Lane, and in the background you can see Newbury College. This photo is a view of the site looking northwest from Highwood Copse Way, with the unadopted access to Newbury College in the centre of the picture, the gate, which is currently gated. This is a view of the application site looking northeast from Highway Copse Way, with again you can see the Newbury College buildings in the background. There's a view of the access road leading to Newbury College and Castle School, which I referred to earlier, having been the gated access. Again, another view looking west from Newbury College access road across the site. Another view here looking from along Highwood Copse Way, looking west towards the Highwood Copse Primary School. And this view along Highwood Copse Way, looking east, with the site to the left and Highwood Copse School to the right. This plan shows the proposed layout of the site with the 2 new vehicular accesses onto Highwood Copse Way. Hopefully you can see my cursor. So here and over here. One of which would serve the dedicated 14 staff car parking spaces, which will be this one here. And also it will be serving the ambulance and refuse drop-off area. And the other access across here will be the visitor access, which will be serving the 58 parking spaces dedicated for visitors. Pedestrian access is to the east from the road leading through the college site would be provided here. So there's pedestrian access just to the east there. The building would be located toward the northwestern corner of the site with 2-storey wings of clinical spaces around a central courtyard and a single-storey pharmacy to the front. The main canopied entrance to the practice and visitor centre and cycle parking are located just here. You can see it looks like a shaded triangle area on the plan. And entrance to the pharmacy would be here. So you've got the entrance to the pharmacy just here, entrance into the doctor's surgery just here. Staff cycle storage and the refuse storage areas will be located to the rest of the west of the proposed building, just here by the western boundary. And solar panels are proposed for the 2-storey flat roof element of the building, as you can see on the site plan there. Part of the flat roof of the single-storey pharmacy element would be a terrace for staff only, accessed from the staff room, with the remainder of the terrace being a green roof. A veteran lime tree is located just outside the site boundary on the application site here. I'm just circling it up the top there. The existing mature hedgerow along the northern boundary, which is the boundary just as I'm moving my cursor, so this boundary here, there's existing hedgerow along here, and it's proposed to a slight gap, as you can see near the bottom here, and there's proposed for additional landscaping, additional hedgerow here to fill that gap. Hedgerows are also proposed along the western, eastern and southern boundaries. These plans show the proposed elevations of the new surgery, and as you can see, it's a mix of brick and timber cladding, which is reflective of the nearby primary school, with aluminium windows providing natural surveillance to all sides of the building. The proposed two-storey flat roof element would be approximately 8.1 metres in height, with a single-storey flat-roofed element to the front, approximately 4.6 metres tall. The section plan here shows the scale of the proposed building compared to Highwood Copse Primary School to the south and Newbury College to the north. The proposed development would be approximately 1.9 metres taller than the primary school and approximately 2.4 metres lower than the tallest part of the Newbury College building. The proposed building would also be approximately 1.9 metres lower than the maximum height of the care home that's been approved over to the east. As set out in section 6 of the agenda report, the need for the proposed surgery has been adequately demonstrated and sufficient evidence provided showing that alternative sites have been explored over the past 5 years, but no alternative suitable sites have been found. Whilst the proposed new surgery would be located outside of, but directly adjacent to the settlement boundary of Newbury, geographically, it would be located more centrally to the catchment area of the GP practice than the existing site on St John's Road. However, it is acknowledged that the proposed site would be located further from the built-up area of Newbury and therefore would require patients living in that area to walk further to take alternative means of transport. The proposed site would be within cycling distance. However, there is a significant gradient on Newtown Road between the town centre and the site, which may act as a deterrent to some cyclists. As such, it is considered that the proposed location of the new surgery and pharmacy would detrimentally impact on the ability of some patients within the Newbury urban area to easily access the facility by foot or cycle. However, patients from other parts of Newbury and Greenham, as well as future planned residential development nearby at the college and at Sandalford, would benefit from the new location. In addition, there are existing public transport connections near to the site, providing around 3 buses per hour to and from central Newbury. The NPPF advises that provision of suitable healthcare facilities for the population weighs significantly in favour of the proposal. As such, the principle of the proposed new site is, on balance, considered acceptable as the benefits would outweigh any negative impacts of in the planning balance. The proposed built form in the context of existing buildings to the south, north and northeast and planned future development to the east would not detrimentally impact on the character and appearance of the area. No significant impacts on the amenities of neighbouring properties have been identified. In respect of highways matters, it is considered that whilst there may be some increase in journey time and distance travelled for some staff and visitors, overall there would not be an increase in traffic on the Newbury highway network. A travel plan has been submitted which seeks to reduce single occupancy vehicle travel and achieve a greater use of sustainable transport modes and is proposed to be delivered by planning condition. As confirmed by the Highways Officer in the update report, sufficient visibility displays at the proposed vehicle accesses can be secured by planning condition, and the overall parking provision is considered sufficient. A biodiversity net gain can be achieved as part of the development proposed through the provision of bird and bat boxes and suitable planting, and biodiversity and trees can be adequately protected by conditions as set out in the report. With respect to sustainable construction, as required by policy CS15 of the core strategy, the development would be required by planning condition to achieve BREEAM Excellent. However, the development would not accord with the policy requirement to achieve zero carbon CO2 emissions from renewable energy or low zero carbon energy generation on site. In accordance with policy CS15, further information was submitted by the applicant, which demonstrates it would not be economically viable to do so due to the NHS funding restrictions. Officers are satisfied with the submitted justification. Turning to flooding and drainage matters, members will note in the update report that further comments have been received from the local lead flood authority since the agenda report was produced. As a result of those comments, at this point in time, there is insufficient certainty that a suitable sustainable drainage system solution would subsequently be approved should this matter be dealt with by a planning condition. In particular, this is due to the proposed discharge of surface water from the site to an existing highway drain along Highway Copse Way, which carries surface water to an existing pond south of Highway Copse Primary School. Officers consider that more work is required prior to the determination of the application to achieve greater certainty that an acceptable solution to surface water drainage for the proposed development can be implemented. Therefore, condition 5 proposed in section 8 of the agenda report would not pass the MPPF test for conditions of being reasonable in all other aspects, in light of the uncertainty that the scheme would be approved by the council. To address this outstanding technical matter, as set out in the update report, officers propose to amend the recommendation in the agenda report to seek a resolution from members to approve the application subject to delegated responsibility to the development manager for the satisfactory completion of this technical matter within 3 months of the committee resolution to approve the application. This would provide the applicant further time to submit the necessary information and work with the local lead flood authority to establish sufficient certainty that a suitable sustainable drainage system can be provided. Should this outstanding technical matter not be adequately addressed within the 3 months of members' resolution to approve, or such longer period that may be authorised by the development manager in consultation with the chairman or the vice chairman of the Western Area Planning Committee, officers recommend that the application is refused for the reason provided in the update report. For the reasons set out in the agenda report and subject to the satisfactory conclusion in respect to drainage, it is considered that planning benefits of the proposal outweigh the disbenefits, and there are no other material considerations of sufficient weight against the proposal to conclude otherwise. Therefore, members are recommended to delegate to the development manager to grant planning permission subject to the satisfactory resolution of surface water drainage matters, including any necessary 106 agreement or associated conditions within 3 months, or such longer period that may be authorised by the development manager in consultation with the chairman and the vice chairman of the committee. Also, the conditions 1 to 4, 6 to 10 and 12 to 21 listed in section 8 of the agenda report and condition 11 listed in the update report, or any minor and inconsequential amendments to those conditions authorised by the development manager in consultation again with the chair or the vice chair of the planning committee. Or if the drainage matters are not adequately addressed, including completion of a 106 agreement if required, to delegate to the development manager to refuse planning permission for the reasons set out in the update report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Deborah. Paul Goddard, do you wish to make any comments, highways, at this point?
Yes, Chairman. Thank you. As far as location and traffic is concerned, this site compared to the existing site in St John's Road has advantages and disadvantages. It is clear that traffic would decrease in the St John's Road area, but would increase in this location. But overall, across Newbury, because you're just replacing one location with another, it shouldn't overall increase traffic across Newbury itself. Location-wise, as Deborah mentioned, it is, while further away from the town centre, it is more central to the catchment area of population that it serves. There are good sustainable travel opportunities in this area. There are cycle routes, including along the A339 and from the site and along Monks Lane, along down Newtown Road itself. There are also a number of bus services, including the 103 that goes along the A339 and the number 2 that goes along Monks Lane, for instance, that offer hourly services to and from Newbury Town Centre. So overall, we think on balance that this location is acceptable in highways, traffic, location and sustainability terms. Initially, access to the site for traffic will be totally from the A339. The access northwards through the college is in the college's ownership and is now gated and closed because the access from the A339 is now open and fit for purpose. Ultimately, within a few years, there will be a further access from the west through the Sanderford development, which will enable travel to and from the site up to Monk's Lane and ultimately the Andover Road as well. So yes, I would consider there is a disadvantage with only having an access off the A339, and I'm sure members will note that the traffic signal junction with the A339 turning right into Highwood Copse Way is prohibited, and traffic will need to go round the Swan roundabout and come back up the hill. So yes, that is a disadvantage, but we consider that it will only be for a few years until the routes through the Sanderford development are open and going forward. So there are two accesses into the site. There's a smaller access that serves the staff car park, and note that is a suitable distance between the two accesses to the school opposite. The busier access that will serve mainly the patients and the customers is further to the east. If members did the site visit, they will notice that front in the school, as with all schools, is keep clear zigzag markings. So there should be virtually no parking fronting the school site and fronting this site. The parking for the school is contained within the kiss and drop area, the loop that you can just about see there, and is subject to the second application that is before you later this evening. Parent parking is also provided to the west along Highwood Copse Road on the wider section that you may have seen on your site visit. So while there's two accesses proposed near the school, with all the parking placed away and the keep clear markings, I do consider that visibility should be clear of parked cars. As mentioned, the sightline drawings are not quite correct yet, but the sightlines can be provided and are just subject to some amended drawings which are secured by condition within the main committee report. Parking levels, we think are about accurate. We envisage up to 14 staff present at any given time and 48 patients present at any given time, and that equates to 72 spaces, and 72 spaces has been provided. There's also further work needed on pedestrian links to and from the site. There is a pedestrian route out to the east onto the College Road, and there is a pedestrian route out to the south onto Highwood Copse Road. I consider that dropped curbs and tactile pavings should be provided to ensure that these routes are linked to the existing footways that are on the other side of Highwood Copse Way, fronting the school, and the access road into the college. And that is secured by a condition in the update report. So on that basis, Chairman, your officers support this application and recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Now, normally we would have had a representative from the parish and then possibly objector and supporter. We haven't had anybody from any of these bodies requesting to speak. So I move immediately on to the applicant or the agent, and I've got listed as Tom Sadler and Dr. Anne Maloney. Now, are you both going to speak, or is it one? Because, yeah, okay. Okay. So there's two of you, three of you, did you say? Two. Okay. You know you've got 5 minutes between you, so you can obviously apportion it accordingly. So soon as you start, the clock starts. And do you want to split it or 50-50 or how do you want to work it? Okay, so what I would do, I'll ask the timekeeper to notify after 4 minutes. Is that okay? Okay, so when you're ready, please begin.
Please do turn on your mic there.
Thank you very much for inviting us here today. And also thank you to Paul and to Deborah as well for the informative and interesting information. It was useful. So I'm Dr. Anne Maloney. I'm one of the GP partners at Eastfield House Surgery. And I'm here with my two colleagues, Mark Gallagher and Emma Featherstone, also GPs at the partnership, and Liz Pope, our practice manager. Thank you for joining us, to everybody who's online as well. So we're here to present this important opportunity to build a modern state-of-the-art primary care facility in Newbury, essential to addressing the needs of our expanding population. We need a new building because our current building is 33 years old. It was designed for 8,000 patients and 4 GPs. Our population has now doubled to 15,500, and we have 10 GPs. It's projected to double again to 28,000 in the next 10 years. Temporary cabins have been installed in the car park, and these were funded by the ICB, but they're not a long-term solution. Despite this, the building is still undersized by 68%. We have a total of 25 clinical staff, but only 13 consulting rooms. Most of these do not meet health and safety standards, and some of our staff work in store cupboards and in a converted corridor on a routine basis. There are access issues, overcrowding in the waiting room, and there are only 10 parking spaces for 50 staff and all of our patients. There's only one toilet for 50 male and female staff, no confidential meeting areas or staff room, with staff having to eat in their meals at their desks. GPs are overburdened, managing 2,600 patients each, which is 30% more than the recommended limit. This increases waiting times and reduces appointments. This is unsafe and an unsustainable environment, and it's affecting staff well-being, morale, and resilience. Without new premises, we will be unable to meet the needs of our growing population in Newbury, potentially forcing the closure of our patient list, which the ICB has already agreed to. But this will impact on our colleagues in other practices and lead to a healthcare crisis in Newbury, with patients having to travel to Reading to the healthcare hub for their care. The crisis in GP premises is a sign of the NHS funding disparity, where general practice handles 90% of patient contacts, but receives only 8.4% of NHS funding. Search for new premises started in 2017, and we've worked closely with the CCG and then the ICB, who are our first point of contact. They have attended 22 of our premises meetings, together with our local MP and West Berkshire Planning Committee department. The ICB have been kept fully informed throughout and support our plans. We've reviewed 17 potential sites, but most were unsuitable due to size, cost, or position. This included a dual site in the Sandalford development, but this is impractical because it's too small, even for our existing patient list, financially and operationally inefficient, with patients needing to travel to both sites to access our full range of services. The Newbury College site has emerged as the best option, central to our catchment, near to housing developments, with space for a BREEAM excellent facility. The benefits include a capacity to expand to serve our future population, co-location with multidisciplinary teams, district nursing, midwives, and a community pharmacy where patients can collect their prescriptions after their appointments and save travel to other services. As you've heard already, the site is accessible and the location will reduce traffic towards Newbury's historic centre. The ICB has already contributed £40,000 towards planning costs. We've partnered with the Greenham Trust, a local charity reinvesting in the community, and with Osmond Tricks, a healthcare property consultancy, to help us fund and develop the new furniture. However, the normal NHS funding process dictates that we cannot submit a business plan or apply for full funding until we receive planning approval. This is therefore a critical hurdle. Tonight's decision is currently a resolution to grant planning permission with drainage details to be finalised. However, because full planning permission is essential to unlock the next round of funding for this project, we respectfully ask the committee to grant full planning permission this evening and address drainage details via a reasonable condition. This is your call to action. Our current premises is no longer fit for purpose, and this is a unique opportunity for a sustainable and modern facility for our community. We've worked tirelessly for years to get to this point, and there is no plan B. Your support is critical for securing full planning approval tonight. This will allow the ICB to provide funds and enable us to deliver this vision. Thank you for your time. And this is.
I'm afraid to say we've just come up to 5 minutes, so I'm afraid you won't be able to continue on.
The only point I wanted to add was that we've submitted a 112-page drainage strategy, which confirms that the drainage from that site is no worse than a greenfield rate, and therefore see no reason why it can't be conditioned. And it's so important because the temporary accommodation planning expires in July. Time is critical so we can progress both the planning conditions and the temporary approval and the funding at the same time.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
If you both stand at the lectern, I would imagine, and seeing the hands, there's quite a few questions. So I'm going to start going around the table. I think I'll go around the table. Councillor Anthony Andrade first.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Maloney, for that important update for us. I think none of the committee members would disagree with you or not take this point very lightly. But I just want to understand, you mentioned about the future 28,000 patients of population service. Is it just the Eastfields catchment or is it just the Eastfields? Okay, so it's just an extension of the Eastfields surgery. Through you, Chairman, I just you haven't mentioned it, but I think I have to ask for the benefit of the public. Is there a plan to merge with Parkland Surgeries in the future? Okay, so there is no plan.
Councillor, I think you do need to keep to what the presentation came out with, and it wasn't quite in line what you expected. So you might get a chance at a later stage in that time. Right, Councillor Vickers.
Yeah, if I may just say, we need to remind the people to put their mic on.
This is on. It's on, yeah, sorry.
Okay,
It's me standing out of the way.
Okay, Councillor Vickers.
Sorry
Yeah,
about
the hook I hang my question on is you mentioned the word accessible in your presentation. I've looked at, I always tend to look at the accessibility on foot and particularly on foot and by bike, and noting that there's no footway on the north side of Highwood Copse Way, and yet now you're moving out to this location from where you are. A lot of the people off the Deadman Lane area and in future on the Sandalford area are going to be living within easy walking distance, and we want them to walk or bike. And yet the way your access has been designed, how do you get to, I mean, we've heard from the presentation that drop curves are there, but have you thought in your design of your access points about pedestrian access from the east? It's probably a question for your colleague rather than you.
Yes, we've incorporated footpaths wherever we can within the control of our site. That's what we've done. And we've got to work to an NHS budget, which doesn't mean we can put footpaths everywhere, I'm afraid.
Right, I'll take it out with the officers. Yeah.
Any questions? Right, okay. Sorry, I think Councillor Abbs, okay.
Yeah, a couple of things to do with capacity. Obviously, Sandalford is a big load, which will come under your hat, plus the care centre opposite, and so on and so on. So when this has its designed, and as we're being asked to approve, what is your spare capacity once it's built?
spare capacity. Well,
you're moving because you need to take care of 16,000 to 20,000 people already.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, we have.
I might be able to answer that. The way the NHS size new primary care buildings is they give a 10-year growth. So the size of the patient growth is matched to the 10-year spatial in the building. So that just gives you an indication.
So I can be assured that the capacity is there to take care of all of these new developments that have gone on around, because some of those decisions are relatively recent, not the Sandford these days, but some of the others are quite recent. You're sure about capacity?
One of the benefits that we have of the site is that there is another piece of land behind it. So if we did find that we weren't achieving our capacity, that's something we could do for the future, and that's one of the.
You feel they've got room to expand. Yeah, I get it. I would like to come back to Councillor Vickers' note about accessibility. Now, generally, when I'm ill, I don't tend to walk to the surgery anyway. I'm not feeling very well, so I don't walk. But in the documentation, and you mentioned accessibility, it's quite a steep hill. And in fact, cycling was mentioned by the officer in terms of being a barrier to getting there. But actually, surely the distance and the hill is another barrier for sustainable travel.
So the other way, if we stayed where we are at the moment, and you had people in the new Sandalford development becoming ill, and they wanted to cycle, or even if they weren't particularly unwell, they'd have to cycle, they'd be able to get down the hill, but they'd have to get up again, wouldn't they? So I don't think, there isn't really a flat area that we can put it where the whole of Newbury.
Yeah, if you consider only a single place solution, you're absolutely correct.
So are you suggesting a double?
No, I'm not suggesting anything. I was just asking you questions.
Yeah.
It's not for me to plan stuff. So I'm done. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Okay, is that it?
That was it. Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to be.
But we are going around the table, so I'm going to ask a question from the chair before I come into Councillor Foot. You're obviously thinking forward on your projections, and obviously you've been discussing future patient numbers. But clearly, if this committee is mindful enough to accept the application tonight, there's a long road ahead for you in relationship to when you get to the point of being able to open a new facility. What sort of timescale are you thinking that it would take before you got to that point?
So the main delay will be in the funding. So once we start, if we get planning permission, if we started the next day, I think, was it a year you thought we could have us up and running?
Yeah, we'd be looking at 2 years. So we'd be looking at probably a year for the funding, procurement, tendering, exercise and detailed design, and then a year for construction. So we'll be looking at 2 years. And that's been planned in.
Right, Councillor Foot.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I want to ask about travel plans and things, and I know that at your surgery you've been very good at having patient consultations and such like. Could I ask, for your patients that are still sort of based down around the existing surgery, and obviously they quite a large percentage of those patients will be elderly and will have mobility issues. We've heard a little bit about public transport, but can you give the committee any idea of what sort of feedback you've had from your patient base about essentially getting up the hill and getting back down again, for Newbury residents to get up to the new surgery? Thank you.
Do you have anything to say about the patient consultation? We certainly are relying on buses. Some people will be able to drive who can't drive at the moment because there's no parking. There's a volunteer group as well who will drive people in their cars if they need to. We also have, we do have a home visiting team for people who are housebound, which is actually very innovative. Not very many practices in the UK have a home visiting team. We have a specific team who looks after all our housebound patients. So they won't be, there won't be any detriment to their care.
Thank you very much.
The only thing I would like to add is where we do these consultations, engagements with many surgeries around the country, the one piece of feedback we get from every engagement session is that people like to register at surgeries where they can actually be dropped off. because they can't physically get to places where it's on a busy road and there's no parking and there's no drop-off area. Here we'll have exactly that. So people like to register in these new places because they can actually get dropped off at the door. It's a really positive thing for people who are elderly and infirm.
I'll come back to you, Councillor Hooker.
Thank you. Looking at your programme going forward, could you tell me what your current staffing is now? And then when the transfer takes place to the new facility, what would your projected staff requirements be?
We have 50 staff at the moment, and 25 of them are clinical and 25 are admin. I don't think we've got any more room for any more staff now in the building at all. So when we first move, we will then start recruiting at that point. But we have we got staff numbers? I'm not sure what we discussed.
I don't think we've made projections. It's really to do with a patient increase, isn't it?
We will increase our staff as the patients increase.
Can you come next door to the lectern, because obviously somebody on Zoom might be listening, that's all.
Sorry, do turn me out.
I don't think we've made accurate projections in terms of staff projections. We've projected the patient numbers, haven't married up staff numbers to that, but that's something that you could probably work with the ICB really on different. I mean, one thing at the moment the practice can't benefit from is because they haven't got space. They can't take advantage of all of the things that are being offered by the NHS in terms of additional staff and facilities because they haven't got room at the moment.
Yeah, I asked the question because you've designed the building and going forward, presumably you would have designed it to accommodate the increase in staff that you need, but you don't seem to know how much staff you need, but you know how many rooms you've got.
We do know how many rooms we've got, and it should be on the plan.
Yeah.
And we have thought about staff. It is difficult to know how many more staff to recruit.
I understand. That's fair enough.
We're in a position at the moment where.
Out of your 50 staff, how this is where you are currently.
That's right.
If we take that over then to the new facility, how many of those staff are in the building all at one time? Oh, you've got 50?
Probably, I don't know, do you know, Liz, how many of those staff would be in the building at the same time out of our 50 staff?
No, yeah.
Our staff share rooms. Sorry, currently our staff.
It's just the number of staff you're expecting to be in the building at one time. 50, 20, 10?
No, it would be.
Excuse me, sorry. Only the people that are down to speak are allowed to speak. I'm really sorry. We've got rules, and I know I'm sounding a bit legal, but that's what I am. So I'm really sorry.
The position is normally, obviously, that the speakers do have the evidence in front of them, but
you can't answer the question. That's
it's
fine.
Obviously difficult,
but it is quite critical because I should come back to Mr. Goddard. You see on the parking. That's what I'm going with this.
I might be able to help out with one point of. Currently, there are 13 clinical rooms. In the new building, there'll be 28 clinical rooms. So that gives you an idea of the capacity the building has, really, fit for the next 10 years and plus.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
My second question, if I may, Chairman, is could you just explain to me? You've mentioned about the conditions of drainage. Could you just talk me through how you find yourself in this position at this late stage? Let's say that the drainage solution hadn't been considered.
Yes. Well,
or it had been considered, but it wasn't accepted.
Yeah, no, sure. We've worked very, very hard on this application for well over a year. We submitted it in October 2023. So it's been a long time. We received drainage queries in December. So very late in the day. We've done our best, our very best. Rupert here from Green and Common Trust is actually paid out additional fees for consultants to look at that. We've appointed experts. They prepared a very detailed 112-page drainage strategy. In my view, when I've seen these across many, many different developments, that's always been acceptable as a condition. We've worked with the authorities to make sure that it's no worse than greenfield runoff. That's exactly what we've done here. And I can't, for the life of me, work out why it has to be delayed any further when a condition completely reasonably could be tonight, and we could get on with everything else. Thank you.
But have you got a solution?
The solution is in the 112-page drainage strategy. We've got attenuation, we've got SUD systems. Everything is controlled within our site.
Okay.
So I don't know why it can't be delivered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Right, Councillor Abbs.
Yeah, thank you. It's been mentioned a few times, the cost associated NHS funding for this. 99.99% certain today I heard a statement on the radio saying that they weren't sure whether or not they could fund this development at all because they don't know what rent is. So could you square that off for me, please?
Yeah, so as I said in the presentation, what happens is that the NHS has a process and they will not look at a business case until the full planning permission is granted. Then they will look at a business case and then funding can be decided about that. We will then get the funding.
So tell me if I've got this wrong. So you're effectively a private GP practice getting NHS funding for a new building, and once you have permission, you'll put the business case and back to the NHS to tell them how much rent you're going to charge.
We're not private, we're NHS. So GPs are part of, contrary to media,
Well,
you might have heard it on the media, we are employed by the NHS.
Okay.
But we're just funded slightly differently. So we, rather than the big NHS trusts who spend what they need and go into deficit, GP practices are small businesses and they're given funding and we can never go into deficit. So we are never a big risk like the big hospitals, but we do have to have our premises provided in some way. We couldn't fund them ourselves without any funding.
No, I wanted to hear that you were NHS.
We are NHS and we serve for NHS patients.
Yeah. Councillor Abbs, I did allow you to sort of drift a little bit in the questioning, but technically it's a little bit further ahead than actually what we're considering in the planning domain.
And thank you very much for that, Chairman.
That's okay.
Okay. Did you wish any question, Councillor Gaines? Councillor Williston?
Not me, Chair.
Right. I think we've exhausted the questions, so you can return back to the public benches. Okay. I now call upon the ward member, Councillor David Marsh.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm pleased to say, as the ward member for Newbury Wash Common, that I support this application. Do have some issues which I will talk about in a moment, but it's quite clear from what's been said and what's in the papers that this is needed. It's also clear that even for Sandalford alone, with 1,200 houses about to be built there over the next decade or so, that it's needed to serve that development. I'm a patient at Falkland and it's a great surgery, but I can tell you they are very hard pressed. They do not have any spare capacity at all. It's a shame that it's on a greenfield site rather than a brownfield site, but we're kind of used to that in Wash Common now because most of our greenfield is being built on its fields. Bit disappointing that given that it's a greenfield site, there isn't as more emphasis on biodiversity net gain. It was mentioned in the report earlier, but bat and bird boxes and a few shrubs and trees do not necessarily deliver what we would expect to see. And just because you're not legally obliged to provide a certain percentage of biodiversity net gain, because the application was put in before the law changed, we'd like to see that, particularly we're talking about a surgery and health and well-being, and the connection between a good environment and nature and wildlife as well. Known other environmental considerations. It's really good to see the officers insisting on BREEAM excellent. It's good to see there are solar panels on these buildings, unlike the school next door where the council inadvertently forgot to put them on. It's disappointing to see the developer say that zero carbon isn't unviable, but I notice in the report at 6:58, the council is saying they don't necessarily accept that. And I do hope that officers will work on that with the developer to see if zero carbon can be delivered. It is, after all, in the plan. I'm not going to say much about the flood risk because there are people here who know far more than I do about this. It was a bit worrying to read what the local flood authority had to say about flooding, and obviously we don't want to see that at a time when flooding is increasing all over the place because of climate change. But I hope that can be resolved, whether it's by delaying it for 3 months, as the officers suggest. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me. Most of my concerns, which have been briefly referred to by Councillor Foot, are about transport and traffic. I don't think that 14 car parking places for 40 staff are going to be anything like enough realistically. And we know it happens everywhere. People go by car. The car park will be overflowing, just like the one at Falkland, just like the one everywhere else. And I don't think the travel plan is quite up to what it should be to face up to this, because the answer to this is not to try and cram more and more cars in, but to come up with alternatives. The travel plan to me seems like aspirations rather than a strategy, and a 10% reduction in staff travelling to work, driving to work by themselves seems pretty weak and unambitious. I think the first priority should have been to think about existing patients. Yes, there'll be loads of new ones, but what about the existing ones? They won't be able to walk like the people from Saddleford may be able to. And I think that for existing patients who are non-car users, it's great to hear that there's a volunteer service. Well, could that be expanded? Could there be a dedicated bus service, free or cheap, from Eastfields, from the old site to the new site, at least while people get used to the switch? And as for buses, well, the report says consideration could be given to looking to provide additional bus calls at the College Hub bus stop. That shouldn't just be consideration should be given to. It should be an absolute priority. Thank you, Chair. Should be an absolute priority to have buses at the college where people are a very short hop from the new surgery, more often than once an hour, especially as this is a safe bus stop that's nearby. They don't have to cross a dangerous road like the A339 or indeed Monk's Lane once the Aldi is built there. So I really hope that the council will look at providing more services through that stop in particular. It's a shame there isn't going to be a bus stop at the surgery. There should have been, in my view, but it's a bit late for that. But and finally, can we have some shelters and seating at the bus stops? Because people who are going to see the doctor, they don't want to stand there in the rain afterwards. And I think if there was a real effort to made to get people to use active travel methods, that would be a preferable alternative to having hundreds of cars fighting to get into a small car park with a school a few yards away. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor Marsh? Councillor Armitage.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to bring the same topic about that Falkland, since you mentioned, Councillor Marsh, about that one. So I think I'm free to ask that question. Yeah, we are looking at now an extension of the Eastfield surgery with more capacity, which is good. That's what you're supporting, and I think that's understandable. But you also mentioned that Falkland surgery would not be able to cope up with an additional numbers. So are we implying, or are we coming to a situation where there is a threat to the Falkland surgery at the moment, and then in the future, the developments in the Monk's Lane would be support or able to other patients absorbing in this surgery, and then at the end, Falkland would be redundant?
I mean, to be absolutely frank with you, Councillor Amataraj, I'm not sure that the two surgeries together are going to be able to cope with the demand, particularly if it continues to, I mean, I'm no expert like the people here, but particularly if demand for the NHS continues to expand with an ageing population that includes myself, as you can see. Very little consideration. Those of us who were opposing Sandalford Park East, which, as you know, was agreed on appeal, and Sandalford Park West, which was agreed, regrettably, by members of the council. But both those developments, there was remarkably little attention paid to the health I know you raised it actually at the time, but remarkably little attention was given to the demand that would this be likely to place on the NHS. And in fact, I don't recall this application being mentioned when the Sandalford applications were going through. Falkland was, and we've heard that Falkland is full. So this will be of great help, not only to their existing patients, but to the new ones. But I think in the longer term, you'd really need to see, and this is a matter not for this committee, but for perhaps for the Health and Wellbeing Board, of which I'm a member, to look at, you would still probably need another surgery in Newbury somewhere, because moving out of these fields does leave a gap, which is acknowledged in the report, but it's thought to be a planning gain on balance, a planning balance matter. But I think there's a real issue here, and these good people from the surgery want to provide a better service, and no doubt will do if this goes through. But I think there's still going to be some gaps.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Marsh. That's what I wanted.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? No? Okay, you can return to the back bench.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Sorry, I'm afraid we run quite a tight ship, and I'm yeah, I'm sorry, but you know, we do need to keep to the format of the meeting. Okay, so members, questions for the officers, and what I'm going to suggest that you identify whether it's to Deborah or which Paul it's to. Okay, because I think it's appropriate that there could be three different directions. So I think Councillor Hooker was first on the list.
A very quick question to Mrs. Instant, and then I'd like a question or two to Mr. Goddard, if I may. Mrs. Instant, could you tell us what the Councillor Marsh was talking about, the biodiversity net gain? Do we know what the actual percentage net gain increase on this app? I've looked at the report, I can't see it. It's adequate, and we got bird boxes and all the rest of it, but is it 15%, 10%? What do we know?
I'm afraid, Councillor Hooker, we don't have a figure that's been submitted, but they're with the application, because it wasn't submitted, because it was submitted before the BNG regulations come into force. They weren't, they didn't have to submit a BNG figure. So we don't have that, I'm afraid.
So we assume it's all right.
The ecologist has assessed the information that's been submitted and have raised no objections.
Thank you.
And are satisfied with the biodiversity measures that are proposed.
When did that come in? January last year, was it?
Yeah, the
Was this
BNG come in February.
Yeah.
The application was submitted it was beginning of January.
Just got it in. Okay.
Sorry, it was validated. It was submitted prior to February the 12th.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Goddard,
second question. Yeah.
Mr. Goddard, could you explain, please, it was brought this, you can see where I was going with my questions to Dr. Maloney with regards to the number of staff. I appreciate some will come on the bus, some will come in the car, and some will walk and bike. But it looks as if we could have 40 to 50 staff in this building with 14 parking spaces. Can you explain how you come up with 14?
Chairman, I have the transport statement before me here, and it's telling me that 40 staff are to be employed. I'm not expecting them all to be there at any given time. The majority will be there, and with or without a travel plan. Not all of them will travel by car. So I may have given the wrong figure earlier on, actually, to be honest. Not 14, 24.
No.
My arithmetic is it was a bit faulty earlier on. 24 staff are up to 24 staff are expected to bring their cars. And we have 256 patients per day, a maximum of 48 there at any given time. So 48 plus 24 is 72, and we have 72 spaces proposed.
But yeah, if I may just expand on that now, because we'll come on to the exit in a minute of staff car parking. Are you saying then the overflow will go into the patient car park?
Yes.
Oh, that was always going to be the case, was
yes.
it? Okay. Thank you. Can you just expand again on the thinking of the exit coming out of the staff car park directly opposite the school?
The smaller access that serves the staff is halfway between the school entrance and school exit. So it's not directly opposite, it's sort of equidistant. And the larger access is further to the east, closer to the A339. So again, not opposite.
Okay, we're just going to try and get that site plan up if we can, please, Mr. Goddard.
What, the site plan?
I think Mrs. Inston.
It would be useful, yeah.
Yeah, just to clarify.
Okay, is there another question, Councillor Hooker?
Yep, there we go now. So it's in between the two, the in and the out, isn't it? Which you might say is possibly worse.
There's the in and out for the school opposite.
Yeah, okay.
And the smaller access that serves 14 spaces that will be used by the staff is halfway between the loop there.
Okay, I'm sure somebody else might bring this up as well.
Move the cursor.
And the other question I was going to ask was that coming up the 339, we've discussed this before, but it's a lengthy route up to the roundabout all the way back again.
Agreed.
And I just wondered if any consideration was done of a turn right off of the 339.
Unfortunately not, because then it would affect capacity.
It wasn't considered, or
No,
it's not possible?
It's not, it hasn't been considered. And I would also argue that it wouldn't be possible because it would affect the capacity of that junction and the A339 as a whole on that section up to the Pinchington Lane roundabout.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Vickers was next on the list.
Again, it's a question to Mr. Goddard, rising from the last point that Councillor Hooker made, actually. Can you just remind me, because some time ago since we approved Sandalford, but you can turn right southbound out of Highwood Copse Way, is that right?
Correct.
So when Sandalford is built, there'll be a substantial amount of traffic going in both directions past the school and surgery. Is that right? I mean, you've got the numbers presumably somewhere?
Yes.
But yet when Sandalford was designed, there was no destination on, in anybody's plans such as this. And the first time I looked at the plans was on the site visit, and I must admit, I was expecting entry and access off a private unadopted road. That seemed to be the sensible thing. And the applicant said that's what they wanted, but you said you'd prefer it off Highwood Copse Way. Now, I know we can only approve what is in front of us, but I would like to know your thinking as to why you basically made the applicant move their original plans onto what, to me, looks like a very congested bit of road looking 10 years ahead when Sandalford's built out. So could you share your thinking with us? And linked to that is the fact there's no footway on the north side, so everybody coming by foot from Sandalford, as well as from the Dead Man's Lane area, has got to cross the road somewhere near there. Goodness knows where that drop curb's going to be, but people don't follow drop curbs. So I'm really worried about the pedestrian access and the perception of people who should be able to get to the surgery on foot, not doing so because they're worried about the safety of that crossing. So you're thinking on why we've got these exits onto Highwood Copse Way rather than off the road that's within the applicant's control, effectively, at the moment.
Yeah, there was some good questions there. Part of these issues I had to wrestle with the proposed planning application for the Aldi store that came before you. I considered with that one, and it was very difficult to finally find a solution to the traffic issues that developed, and that was that there was too much traffic going on to Monk's Lane and the Pinchington Lane roundabout. And therefore, what I sought to do with that application, have sought to do here, is to try and spread the traffic out more onto the Highwood Copse A339 junction away from Pinchington Lane, but also in future knowledge that from this side, in the future, you will be able to travel through the Sandford Park development and onto Monks Lane and Andover Road. So what I'm trying to do is, because Pigeonton Lane and Monks Lane is so congested, is to try and spread the traffic out from all the development proposals that we have in this location more. So I wasn't keen on having an access on the eastern side there. One, because it's a private road anyway. It's not adopted, it never will be. It's the Newbury College's road. And at least the accesses before you tonight are onto a road that is adopted public highway, or will be. So that was also part of our thinking. Footways and cycleways, a very good point. There is a footway cycleway opposite the site on the southern side that links all the way to the existing footway cycleways on the A339 and onto Dead Man's Lane, etc. And I will want a pedestrian crossing place from the site to make sure that it is connected to it. There is also a footway on the other side of the road going into Newbury College. And so that's a pedestrian route that people can use to go through the college and onto Monks Lane, and also for cyclists as well. And then, of course, going forward, with the Aldi development and a proposal for 85 houses just to the south of that, there will be footways and cycleways associated with that. I hope I've answered your question. There's an awful lot of developments, is something that Councillor Marsh mentioned in this area, and we have been seeking to sort of stitch it all together. Thank you.
Chairman, can I come back with a question? Yeah, it's really probably about process, and maybe it's Mrs. Inston's the best one to answer. Obviously, we want to approve this because we've heard the urgency of the approval. But, you know, as a planning committee, is it possible that if the applicant came forward, I think it was section 73 or something, if having approved it, they came in with a different mode of access, that could be not delay, it wouldn't delay the actual business plan? You know, I can understand they need a full approval tonight, but that need not, is what I'm trying to say, rule out coming forward with a slightly different proposal for access if they were minded to do that. Is that something that they could do if they get the message from us as a committee that that's something that we would prefer?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in terms of process, they could obviously, following, if members were minded to resolve to approve the application this evening, the applicants could submit a section 73. Actually, that it would need to be a new application because the red sight line would have to increase. As you can see over there, if we were going to put an access on here, we would have to, the red sight line would have to include this section of road. And with section 73 applications, it has to be the same red line. So it would be a new application they would need to submit.
Okay, right. Councillor Amos-Raj.
Thank you, Chairman. I have two questions, one for Mrs. Inston and one for Drainage Engineer, Mr. Bacchus. First to Mrs. Inston, you mentioned about this Aldi, the food store and then the 75 houses application, which we recently approved. My question on that one is, as our officers considered as part of the construction method statement, the potential impact, because sooner or later we would have both these sites under construction at the same time, all accessing the Monks Lane or the A339 and then the Newbury College Road. So I've not seen any conditions put forward in the construction method statement to consider this impact. As our officers consider this in that conditions. And then one to Mr. Bacchus is that in this report in section 6.50 in page 39, there is a mention of the new package pump station, which is from one of the conditions from the Thames photo, which would like to look to see, but I've not seen anywhere in the document in the report about this pump station. And my other question to you is that how confident are we as councillor from your team to look at this 122-page report mentioned by the applicant, that it would be acceptable? Because we have been told as a committee that that is what they've come up with and we have to approve subject to delegated power. So how confident you are? And then in terms of, can tell us how serious it is or it is viable? Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Charlotte, would you like me to go first and answer the?
Councillor Armitage sort of moved in there, looking at Paul behind all the time. Okay, Deborah, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I can go first. And in terms of your first question, Councillor Mithraj, about the construction method statement, we're recommending a condition in the report for the submission of a construction method statement. The other scheme will also be needing to submit a construction method statement. And it will really be down to our highways colleagues, and I look over to Paul here, to ensure that the construction management statements are suitable and they weren't going to cause any undue highways issues if they were to start construction at similar times. So, Paul, I don't know if you want to add to that in terms of the CMS.
Are very important, I would say, particularly as it's located near a school. So we would pay particular close attention to all aspects on any construction management statement, including when deliveries are made, etc., and ensuring that there's adequate parking on site for workers and there's space on the site for deliveries and storage, etc. That's a good question. Thank you.
Okay. Right, Councillor Hubbs.
Oh, sorry, Chairman. The other question was to Mr. Backus as well, the drainage question.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, just with respect to the foul pumping station. Firstly, Thames Water have been contacted and have requested a condition, which I'm fine with. I have reviewed the 112-page report, which is 80 pages of appendices and 30 pages of report. And I don't have any serious concerns with the drainage on site. What I have requested is further information relating to the path between the pumping station and the point of connection. So this is one of the outstanding matters which I would like to resolve. It's not one of the more serious concerns that I have with this application. The more serious concerns I had were related to surface water drainage connection points.
Chairman, thank you, Mr. Backus.
No, moving on to Councillor Hubbs.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to get it right by asking you a question, Mr. Backus, not on economics this time, but actually on the matter of the lime tree, which is, according to the plan in front of me, I think it's up on the screen there, is that little dot there, which is shown, it's shown outside the red line, but of course its root system will be well within the red line. And the suitability of the statements that have been made and the information you've seen to protect what is classed as an ancient lime tree, I believe. Sorry?
Drainage.
Yeah. Can we not just get all the officers to ask all the questions, answer all the questions? That'll be a lot easier. Okay, well, so who can answer that question then, please?
Deborah's going to answer.
Okay, I'll get it right next time, promise.
The information submitted with the application has been assessed by our tree officers, and they have required some additional arboricultural information to ensure that during the works, the root protection zone is appropriately protected. So we're seeking conditions on, we're looking, condition number 6 in the report is requiring that no development commence until an arboricultural method statement has been submitted. And then we have another.
When I read the report, there was talk about special arboricultural deeds required for that particular.
There will, and that will be contained in the arboricultural method statement that will be submitted via condition.
We're happy that we.
Yeah, the tree officer is happy that that can be secured by a condition.
No harm will come to it.
No.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, and the other one is going to be for Mr. Goddard, who I definitely know what he does. So, blame Mr. Goddard. The staff numbers, you said you assessed this based on 40. correct?
Correct?
We have heard the presenters talk already about 50 existing staff, not 40. So we're 10 out to start with. And we are talking about expansion of staffing, which they didn't know how much expansion there was going to be, but certainly expansion. So let's say safely assume 60. I think that's 60. What does that do in terms of your thinking about car parking? Given also that the existing needs and measurement of staff, not staff, but patients going there might be adequate. But as it continues to expand to meet the needs of the expanded residents of the area, well, we're not talking about now, we're talking about over the next 10 years, aren't we?
Indeed. I've based my figures on the transport statement, which stated there was 28 existing staff employed and they were increasing it to 40. So I've based it on that assumption. Right. Okay, so let's say if we're 10 out and there's 10 additional there. So if there's 24 staff and there ends up being 30 or 34 staff, how much parking is then left for patients? We're told, according to this transport statement, that there are 256 patients per day. Mm-hmm. And there could be a maximum of 48. There's probably, at some times during the day, I would imagine it would be less than that for most of the time. So that 48 figure is probably an overestimate for the number of parking for patients. So I think, on balance, even with, let's say, 30 staff coming by car, it should just be adequate.
We don't really have any margin left, though. It's a kind of...
Yeah, I have stated that I have some concerns about parking levels based on, for instance, the Falkland surgery. But I think it is about adequate, and certainly if there is any shortfall there, it's not enough for me to recommend refusal of the planning application and be successful at appeal.
Okay.
And I would also add that there's a lot more parking there than what they have now at St John's Road.
But there's a lot more car travel going to happen as well because of where it's located. So I don't think we gain or lose just because of that. So the other, I'd like to come back, and the point's kind of been asked, but I'm still unclear as to why. You talked about your reasoning for recommending the road that is being used for access at the moment because of, well, it's not adopted road, Monk's Lane, as it's down on this thing here and so on and so forth. However, as far as I can tell, the applicants originally wanted to come in that way. When I look at the sight lines, we might be able to condition the sight lines.
We will.
But we need to then permanently condition the sight lines to make sure they never overgrow. We haven't really taken account of the blind, with sight lines or without sight line, we're still effectively on a corner, which people won't be expecting. We're talking, I mean, it's just not the ideal scenario to be coming in off of a bend. Would you agree with that? And if the college, who takes money from Greenham Trust, who's part of the application, everybody on the site visit said they were all right with it. So why don't we just move? Why aren't we just moving, or why haven't we just moved the barrier up the road a bit, which exists, and have all the access off of a nice clean route, which is marked as Monk's Lane on this? I don't understand why we're trying to force it off of a less than ideal bend.
Okay. Firstly, regardless of the bend, the adequate sight lines are provided, 2.4 by 43 metres, which is suitable for 30 miles per hour. Right. I would hope that vehicles will go much less than that in this location. So I think the sight lines that we can provide are excessive. Regards to whether the site should be accessed onto what is called Monk's Lane going through the college. The access onto Monk's Lane that serves the college, it already has the college on it, the public house. Then it will have...
No, sorry, Mr. Goddo, you're misunderstanding. I'm not talking about traffic coming down the road and in that way. I'm just talking turning off of the A3.
Oh, I see. So you're suggesting that you'd move the gates further to the north.
Yeah.
And well, unfortunately, that proposal's not before us right now, and it's not. And that would be subject to approval by the Newbury College.
Well, indeed, this is one of the problems. We can only look at what's in front of us, but we're all going, there's a slightly better solution. So in other words, it sounds a little bit to me like you would be behind that, and we should maybe try and find a way of achieving that.
I wouldn't object to that. It's subject to the Newbury College. I wouldn't object to that as long as this site wasn't accessed onto Monks Lane for reasons that I set out. But what I can say to you this evening is that the access points that you have onto Highwood Copse Way are adequate with regards to width, with regards to sight lines, and with regards to their distance from the school access opposite, particularly with all the clear zigzag markings that you have opposite the site.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Goddard.
You're welcome.
Okay, right, Councillor Foot's next on the list.
Thanks very much, Chair. Again, it's Mr. Goddard, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm not sure if this is really covered by this particular planning application, but I was quite interested in what Councillor Marsh was saying about bus stops and new bus stops at, say, Newbury College, and the potential for, shall we say, volunteer minibuses or something like that going up the hill, up Newtown Road, dropping off at the college at a bus stop, turning back, taking, potential patients from the practice back down the hill. Is that something that is feasible? Is that something that is relatively easy to do and implement, or is that very difficult? Thank you.
Chairman, I would say that was difficult because you need to fund the bus. You'd need to fund if the driver was voluntary or not.
Can I just clarify? I'm not interested in funding a bus route or anything like that. I'm just asking, is it possible? Is it an easy thing to install a bus stop if there is a route to the college?
Well, there is a bus stop within the college now, and it's served by the 103B. And 5 times a day, every hour from 10:48 through to 14:48. So there are some bus service into Newbury College now.
Thank you.
And I suppose some patients with that knowledge could book appointments at that time if they wanted the nearest bus stop to the site.
And is it feasible to have additional buses also stopping at that site, or do you need a new bus stop for a different bus route?
I don't know, to be honest. I would need to take advice from transport colleagues on that. Thank you.
Councillor Hooker.
Thank you. Another one for Mr. Goddard, actually. Mr. Goddard, you mentioned about the zigzag lines, no parking around the school, but when we went to the site meeting, we all parked along Highwood Copse Way itself, and I just wondered if you considered anything to dissuade people when this is actually constructed, not parking along that road and taking the short walk, as we did, to the site.
Thank you, Chairman. You may have noted to the west of the school that the road is that bit wider, deliberately so to enable parents to park when dropping off if, for instance, there wasn't enough parking within the school site itself, which will be discussed with the second planning application. So on some stretches of Highwood Copse Way, parking for the school will be permitted.
Not the school, I'm on about the surgery parking.
And the surgery as well. I don't see why not that parking could take place along there during the day when the school when there's no parents there to park.
And that's considered with Sandalford going up shortly as well, and the increased traffic that's going to go up and down.
Yes.
So we're encouraging, in fact, parking along that road.
The road has been designed to allow that to happen with additional width.
But the surgery wasn't on the drawing board at that stage.
It wasn't. That is true. This will be discussed in the planning application later. There is a total of some 13 or 14 drop-off spaces for the school within the loop that you see on the plan there. And during consideration of the school planning application and the road itself, Highwood Copse Way, I was concerned that maybe wasn't enough. So I did amend the scheme to allow some parking on Highwood Copse Way to the west of the school should it be required by parents going forward.
Yeah, you're going over the line to the next application. I'm on about this one.
Yes.
Patients parking there to go in and get their prescriptions or go and see the doctor for 40 minutes or 20 minutes appointment. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't see why, if you have a section of road that's been widened to allow for parking during when school opens and closes, I don't see why it cannot be used by other purposes when the school, during the school day or outside the school day.
Thank you.
I think that'd be quite permissible. Thank you.
Any further questions around the table at all? No? I've got a couple for you, Paul. Moving on, actually, a bit following on from Councillor Hooker. You've obviously mentioned a couple of times about Falkland surgery, and obviously that's a surgery I know quite well. And the parking there is atrocious, as you well know, but also the design is appalling. Very bad design, very bad access, and trying to get round a square corner, which is not wide enough to pass vehicles, especially now there's two other occupied sites there as well. Is the parking here, and as you well know, I'm keen on width of parking spots, as I challenged you, I think, at an earlier meeting, but you said it was national policy and you're going to retain that width and no further for allowing the large doors of the new cars. But having said that, it is concerning that if it's a design of a car park similar to Falkland, is not going to be ideal for vehicles going in and coming out. Can you assure us that there is going to be plenty of space to actually drive in without allowing a tailback of vehicles? And also on the back of that, I think you mentioned about the number of movements that you thought during the day. Of course, they're on top of surgery visits and obviously staff movements. There is going to be a lot of people that are going to pop in and out for prescriptions, I would imagine. So the numbers isn't going to considerably increase on the numbers that you're advocating. Would you make any comments on that at all, Paul?
Can do, Chairman. The car parking spaces are 2.4 by 4.8, but the route into the site is 6 metres. So I consider that's of plenty of width, and the layout itself, the aisles between the parking spaces look quite wide to me. So I'm hoping that it will work better than the Falkland surgery. We have some traffic figures for you. For instance, during a weekday AM peak between 8 and 900 hours in the morning, we're expecting about 55 arrivals and 25 departures, and that would be mirrored the other way during the PM peak. I don't have any figures of the overall totals during the day, but yes, you can assume there will be an increase in traffic in this location, as I mentioned earlier. But I do consider, with the route that will eventually be formed through Sanderford, that the traffic will be spread east to west from the site going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the second time around the table? No? Okay, so we are now into the stage of who's going to open the debate. Right, Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know whether I should have declared an interest in that. My wife worked as the health visitor attached to Eastfield Surgery for a number of years, but they ran out of space for her to have her office there a long time ago, 20 years. So, and I think most of the medical staff who were her colleagues then have now retired. But I don't think any of us want to refuse this. I think we all appreciate the urgent need, and the case was put very well, obviously, by Dr. Mahoney. But I was concerned about the highways access. I was also concerned about the SUDs, but I don't know enough about that. I'm now satisfied that there's no, in my view, no reason why we shouldn't approve this and leave it up to officers to deal with all these many conditions. And But I do think we have a way forward, as I think all of us who were at the site visit thought, why are we having the access and entrance off there? I now understand that Mr. Goddard was worried about using the Monk's Lane access, but we all thought, well, you just move the gate back and you access and exit off the south end of that road. And, you know, we've heard that it's up to the applicant to put in another application, and that's likely to get through. But in the meantime, we've got what we have. We have to see whether, I don't think you could refuse it. What I would say that with the current arrangement with visibility lines, it's all very well saying you're going to have a hedge along that southern border, but it's going to have to be a very low hedge if it's not going to impede on the sight line. It also sterilizes, using a medical term, a piece of land which could have been used for perhaps a few more cars parking right up to the red line. And of course, the highway land ends at the trafficable. There's no highway land that is footway. We've heard there's no real intention by the highway authority to create a footway going from the A339 westwards towards the surgery. Unfortunately, it's not their land. So I'll wait for other colleagues, but I'm now satisfied that we can probably let this go through.
Thank you, Councillor Vickers. Councillor Foote.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I agree with Councillor Vickers that I think this is an application that really needs to be granted. And I'd just like to share with the committee that when I first became a West Berkshire councillor, I sat on the Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, Berkshire Joint Health Oversight and Scrutiny Committee, the Bob J. Hosk, and I got to learn a little bit about the integrated care boards and how they work. And members, it's labyrinthine. And we've heard this evening that this planning application has to be granted before they can apply for any money. It's mad, but that's the world we live in. And we know there's an urgent need for increased capacity for primary healthcare, and this, in my opinion, this site really ticks that box. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that, to my way of thinking, it's not beyond the wit of man and the wit of West Berkshire Council, the doctor's surgery, that we can work out some sort of arrangement with voluntary buses, the surgery already doing voluntary travel, so that we can get a little hopper bus or something like that. I'm thinking of Ready Bus or something along those lines that could nip up the hill from roughly, I don't know, St. John's Church or the roundabout area, up the hill, drop patients off on a regular basis during the course of a day. Obviously, we could talk about funding for that a bit later on, but it's not, I know, a planning issue, but I feel that that is something that we need to consider. And there could be a little bus stop, drop-off point at the college, and then the patients don't have far to walk to get to the surgery. So I hope that we'll grant planning permission for this and accept the officer's recommendation for this application. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, Councillor Abs first and then Councillor Amiraj afterwards.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. In reality, we are seeing an ever-increasing need, and therefore I don't think we have any choice but to approve this, although I would like to add some conditions if we are to approve it, in line with some of the discussion we've had about the sight lines and permanent visibility and so on and so forth. However, I would like to make the comment that the closure of any GP surgery in the location that it is will disadvantage. And I would love to have seen a smaller set of GPs come along and say, actually, we'll go back to what it originally was, 5 GPs, 8,000 people, and have a second GP surgery in town, or a third or a fourth, because Strawberry Hill is also quite busy as well. And to be honest, Strawberry Hill is closer to the existing surgery than the new one will be. So we talked about them going to Falklands, but they could easily go north and go towards Strawberry Hill. But so I would like to actually put a motion forward that we go ahead with officer's recommendation for approval, but then I would like to kind of scoop up a few make sure we've got the conditions watertight that we can, but with the caveat that if the applicant would care to just put another planning application in, I'm sure the local ward councillor won't call it in this time, so it can all be dealt with by officers. And basically, you know, we would then get the ideal scenario, which, as we've seen, Mr. God had some slight concerns, but not much about the access. We can permanently fix that just by all the various parties talking together, and that could be done separate to what we're doing tonight. Wouldn't delay anything.
Thank you. Councillor Armitage, are you actually going to make some comments, or you're going to second the proposal?
I can second that one, Chairman, if you want, if you're going ahead. But just a quick observation. You and colleagues in the committee have asked about the parking spaces. In fact, I have an opinion that the parking is better, way better than the other surgery. The Strawberry Hill, which I go to, it's disastrous in terms of there are hardly 5-6 parking spaces for such a large surgery. So this is good. Such an improvement. And Newbury Society has welcomed this in their report. So it's a good thing. I welcome that, and I'm happy to second this. But just I think there's a slight bit of overlook in terms of our discussion, not going into the drainage plants or this fall water treatment. So I just want to ensure that there is a proper condition, proper assessment by the officers to make sure that the drainage, the fall water management report, whatever it is studied well and all the conditions are applied. And yeah, with that, I'm happy to support the motion. A second.
Thank you very much. I'll come back to the proposal. I think
it's just, sorry, go on.
Can I just clarify? Your proposal is per the update sheet,
Yes.
not per the, thank you.
Yes. The only for me, and others would like to input before we go to it, was the word permanent visibility displays. I wasn't sure I saw the word permanent.
Could you have a look at condition 19?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you give me 1 second while you all discuss
Condition
that?
19.
I thought I'd looked, but maybe I didn't.
Page 49.
Thank you.
Run through it, Chair, if that's easier. The visibility displays condition is requiring that the visibility space should be kept free of all obstructions to visibility above a height of 0.6 metres above the carriageway level at all times.
In perpetuity.
We would take that. We can add.
I mean, permanent. If we're going to have visibilities at this time, in perpetuity makes it crystal clear.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay. But, and the reason why I was coming back to you really, because the seconder in this case did mention about the drainage, and that's the only.
If you'd like to suggest something in addition, what would that be?
No, I've got 2 other speakers. Okay. Is that okay? Right. Councillor Foot, I think you wanted to make some
yeah, thank you. It's only a very quick point. Just to respond to Councillor Abbs's point about, a smaller surgery. Sadly, it's not quite as easy or straightforward as that. I sort of hinted at the complexity with integrated care boards, and of course the professionals in the room can't answer right now, and they would probably be able to give you a detailed reason why it's not quite as straightforward as one might think with that. It's just I wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Councillor Foot. Right, Councillor Gaines.
It's a little bit sort of redundant now, and given we've actually got a proposal, but I did want to say that I think the parking on the road will actually slow down traffic, so I think that will actually add to the traffic safety on that road. I think not all staff will be there all of the time. There'll be a lot of part-time staff in the reception areas, etc. So I don't think there's an issue with the parking. I also think that when it comes to things like CIL money, that there may be money there for such things as footways, zebra crossings, etc. So I don't think we need to worry too much about that. Not because of the surgery, but because they've got Sandalwood there, we've got the Aldi there, we've got the new 75 dwellings there. All of those things will actually attract SIL money. So therefore, there'll be infrastructure money available for putting things, for safety things in that area. So that, just want to add to that.
Thank you very much. Can I just, it prompts me into saying if safety, I think, is probably paramount in all of our heads. So why not just stick 20 mph there from day one? It's outside of school. So wouldn't it be sensible just to put that in as a condition? I'm open to, it's more of a debate.
Okay, right.
Do that.
Before we come into the conclusion of the debate, is there anything else that we need to add? Yeah, I think it would be appropriate.
Can we not do that?
Make sure that we've got all the conditions in place.
Now, in terms of a condition restricting speed limits, that wouldn't be something that we could do via a planning condition. That's something that the Highways Authority would need to look at separately.
Yeah, that would be subject to a separate consultation.
Yeah.
Going forward throughout all of Sanderford, the debate that would need to be had is whether we have that as a 20 mph zone throughout.
Could we have it as informational?
So I would expect this road to be included if we ever go down that road.
So we can have it as an informational. But
yes.
No, it's fine. That's fine because one of the relevant people's in the room anyway. So.
Can I just double check, Chair? Sorry, were you saying can we have it as an informative?
Yeah,
or,
what highways or not, whatever the relevant group is at the council will look at this with it.
Yeah, I mean, informatives tend to be advising the applicants to do things. So it'd be more something that we could take away from this as a recommendation from the committee rather than having it as an informative.
Whichever way you want to write it down, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Ocker, was it on conditions? Or?
No, I do very much like Councillor Gaines. I don't have a chance to say. It's only an observation, but I did ask Mr. Sadler with regards to drainage issues, certainly surface drainage issues. That was my concern. And we did hear there's a umpteen-page document that's gone forward, of which we've now been told is 80 pages. And I was a little concerned when I heard Mr. Backus say his concern, as mine, is the solution to this surface drainage water and where it's going to go. And then whether we need to consider or whatever, that if that solution is lengthy and expensive, where's the money going to come from? And are we going to conclude that condition?
If I may, I heard the actual opposite from Mr. Backus in that there was 30 pages of the report, 80 pages of appendices.
Exactly. Well,
and the surface water he was happy with.
I thought it was not the surface.
No, the other way around.
Yeah.
Could we get the officer to tell us really what he said?
Thanks, Paul. Paul, would you?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So yes, it's 80 pages of appendices and a 30-page report. And within that report, a lot of it's just standardized text. With that said, I have read all of it, and there is a good drainage strategy at the back of the report for the site. The site has a good use of suds and a good variety of suds which provide biodiversity, amenity benefits, water quality control, etc. So I am happy with that. The concerns are with what happens with water off the site and where the point of discharge is. So we need further discussions.
Is that achievable?
So that is why we need further discussions, and that cannot be conditioned at this stage, in my opinion, as opposed to what the applicant has come up with tonight.
Did you say that there was a minor concern or a major concern there?
I don't believe it's a major concern, but that's a point of quantification, which is subjective.
You're the expert, so I'm relying on you to.
It's slightly uncharted territory because it is a proposed discharge to a highway network, which under our SUDS SPD is not typically permitted. However, there are some extenuating circumstances in this instance, notably the nearest public surface water sewer system, that is a Thames Water surface water sewer system, is located in excess of 30 metres away from the site, so it is difficult to tie into that. And the highway drainage network, which is owned by West Berkshire, is much closer to the site and has oversized capacity, presumably for attenuation needs.
Can we not add the condition that subject to Mr. Backus's approval on this area? I mean, surely.
Sorry, that's
already there.
That's the resolution in the update sheet. So that's why I asked you the question.
Well, we've gone round in a circle then, which is that I was happy with, so that's fine. So.
My point is there, Chairman, as long as it is achievable, because we could get to a situation where it's all passed and they can't get this water away. Then what do we do?
But if it's not
I
achievable.
know, you've made that point before, outside the discussion, I know. Okay, you're happy and obviously Paul's happy in this case. Okay, right, was that on the same issue?
It is, I mean, as I read it, reading the update sheet, because I don't see a revised wording for a condition. I can see that there's some mention about it being left for 3 months to be determined, but what exactly is the condition we're deciding? Because it does seem to apply to both foul and surface. I mean, I'm particularly concerned about the foul water, where it says Thames Water may need to request a time-based condition. Now, as I recall from Sandalford, there's a limit on the number of homes that can be occupied in Sandalford, and that's because the foul water system won't be ready to take any pumped sewage from the south side of the Monk's Lane. And, you know, this is going to be a substantial development. I don't know how much it is equivalent to in numbers of dwellings, but that to me is fairly crucial time-wise. If the surgery is built but can't open because there's no foul sewer connection at the time they want to run the surgery, then we need that answer from Thames Water firmly, but it's outside the applicant's control because it's up to Thames Water, isn't it? So where are we with that in terms of planning, you know, process and wording of a condition or section 106 or whatever?
Firstly, if I would just return to the recommendation, which is to delegate to development manager to grant permission subject to the satisfactory resolution of the drainage issues. So that would include discussions as well about foul water discharge, and Paul can correct me if you're wrong, but it would also, a condition would could be applied. I know we do it on residential housing schemes, that the dwelling, the building in this case couldn't be, the use couldn't commence until the building can be occupied until Thames Water confirmed that they had the capacity, and that's something that we can condition.
Yeah, I believe that's what Thames Water have recommended as well. Yeah.
But if Thames Water won't allow the connection because they're not happy with it, then one assumes the development wouldn't go ahead anyway. So
Thames Water can't refuse.
They can't refuse.
They can't refuse. They can only provide a timeline to upgrade their sewer systems to accommodate the flow from that site.
Okay, so they could delay the whole thing by just saying it's going to be a decade.
They usually,
it's not. We can do our bit, which is to go, here's permission. It's then over to others to actually carry it through.
Yeah, they would have to provide the details of how long it would take in a timely manner.
So we do our bit by getting this thing approved. Then it's over to others to deliver it. So,
and presumably this won't delay the funding that the applicant's looking for with the approval tonight.
Well, the recommendation, the resolution this evening would be to delegate back to officers, to the development manager, to give them another 3 months we've set out in here, or such longer period that may be agreed with the chair. So no decision will be issued until the drainage matters have been resolved. And from what I understand, it's more to do with the surface water issues and where that discharges to.
So this will delay their application for money?
Yes, it will.
Okay, are we all clear now on? Oh, sorry.
No problem, Chair.
I was worried that you were sort of out the loop.
No.
Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Just to put this into perspective, from what I can see in these very small plans, there are only 6 WCs here, so I don't think drainage is actually a major problem in terms of foul water.
Moving on from toilets. Any other points that need to be considered at all before I put the motion to members? Okay, are we all happy? Therefore, any other comments, Deborah, at all? Yeah, please do.
Thank you, Chair. So the proposal is for, again, to delegate to development manager to approve, subject to the satisfactory resolution of the surface water drainage matters, allowing a period of 3 months or such longer time as the chair and the vice chair agree to. And then in addition, there is, if we cannot find a satisfactory solution to solving the surface water discharge issue, then the recommendation is for refusal if a satisfactory solution can't be found. And then in terms of the approval, and I just want to double check the conditions. So they, as per the committee, as per the report and the update, with the addition of condition 19, changing at all times to in perpetuity.
I'm a bit concerned now. We've got 3 months. We've got to get a response from Thames Water in 3 months. Connection?
This 3 months is to sort out the surface water. So it's not the Thames Water is not the issue here. It's about the surface water discharge from the site. So that will be down to the lead local flood authority to sort out. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Right, can I have a show of hands for supporting the motion that's just been mentioned? All those in favour? And I think it's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much, members, and thank you very much for your attendance. You're free to leave if so wish. But we've got one other application next door, but it's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Members, do you wish a recess now, or do you want to carry on for the short application?
60-second break. 60-second break.
5 minute?
Not 60 seconds, but
60 seconds. Okay, well, 60 seconds then. Can you?
Sorry, I think we are live.
We're ready to commence. Councillor Hooker. Okay, members, we're now going to move on to item 4, brackets 2, application 24/02029/FUL MAJ, Newbury College, Monks Lane, Newbury, and it's obviously now the application which is going to be presented by the case officer and Matthew Shepherd. It's over to you, sir.
Excuse me, Chair, I apologise. Could you use your microphone, please?
It's fine. That should be fine. Okay, I'll begin again. The site is Highwood Copse Primary School, adjacent to the previous site. We're up at Newbury College, Monks Lane. The application is a section 73 for a variation of condition 10, the travel plan condition, and condition 20, vehicle parking and turning. The applicant is us as West Berkshire District Council. The reason it's come before you tonight is a major application from West Berkshire District Council. The application is recommended for approval, therefore it needs committee oversight. The recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to conditions listed. Just going to show you here, just to remind you on the block plan. So currently we have, as we saw at the site visit, 7 spaces to the bottom of that image to the south, 6 to the north, adjacent to the trees, are yet to be installed. They were required to be installed by September 2024. They haven't been. The proposal tonight before you is to push that back to September 2025. So I think the easiest image to see is from here. So the 6 spaces on the plan shown, the lighting will be pushed back, the trees will be replanted, and the 6 kiss and drop section parking spaces will be positioned in there. Moving back just to this plan. So in terms of highways officers have no objection to this proposal, transport policy officers have no objection. I've listed the changes in the report. So in 1.4, 1.5 covers the changes to condition 20, again, pushing it from 2024 to 2025. And then moving the travel plan, a resubmission of the travel plan just to update it. It will be due in August 2025. It makes sense to push that date back at the same point as the kiss and drop section parking is included. We're not changing or alternating what we are getting from the original permission, only the timescales to which they are delivered. The report covers why they haven't been delivered up till now. Hasn't been considered because the school hasn't been at full capacity and because of workflow and budget constraints from the local authority perspective. Officers are content with the adjustments put forward, and it's a fairly straightforward application to determine. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Paul Goddard, any comments at all?
Chairman, nothing further to add. Your officers are content for this parking to be provided another year in advance because the school is at the capacity that it is now. It's taken longer to fill. Therefore, the delay of another year to complete this parking is acceptable.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we got no parish council representative, no objector, no supporter, no applicant. Have we got a ward member? We have. Over to the rostrum, Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be really brief this time. I support this application again. unusual for me. I think it's a bit of a shame it wasn't done sooner. There'll be 400 children at this school when it's full, when it's a full two-form entry school. There were always going to be 400 when it's full, and I think it was a bit short-sighted to delay this. The just point I want to make is about traffic and safety. It is chaotic there now, busy times. Talking to our fellow councillor, Councillor Drummond, who's a grandfather who takes the children to that school, and he paints a vivid picture of what it can be like. This will help. It's not going to make it much less chaotic, especially when the doctor's surgery opens, but we'll just have to live with that. What we can do, though, is give more priority to the safety of the children in that general area. And this is something that Councillor Drummond from the Greenham side of the A339 and I, from my side, have been banging on about ever since the school opened. And one of the things that we could do, for example, is reduce the speeds on the A339, which is absolutely terrifying to cross, even at the crossing. Currently 50 miles an hour. As it happens, nearly a year ago, the speed limit review panel unanimously recommended reducing it to 40, and it's a real shame that it's taking so long to do. There are but I'm told it will happen. But I mean, really, a year is too long to wait when children's safety is at stake. There are various other proposals, including new railings, which Councillor Drummond has been campaigning for, which we think we're going to get. But it's just, again, if you're going to build a school, as this was, at a time when there was no actual demand for it, but a previous administration built this school in the middle of what was then the middle of the countryside, and made it a school that is almost universally going to be accessible by cars. You have to address the problems by working out how people can get there more safely using active travel. And as it happens, there are quite a lot of children coming to the school from the Greenham side who do walk, who would like to walk. Some of them are being driven there because they're scared of crossing the road. So if we can just look at this in a more holistic way to give more priority to this issue, because now that's going to get busier and busier, it's really important that we provide a safe environment for the children to get to school and to be in school and to go home from school. That's all I want to say about this. I think the application is fine. It won't make a huge amount of difference, but it will help a little bit. Thank you very much, Chair and members.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. No questions for Councillor Marsh? No. Okay. Councillor Wollaston.
I'm just intrigued to know why on earth they didn't put them in the first place. It seems because it must going to cost a lot more now to move all the lights and change all around. It would have done to put them in.
I can't answer that, Chairman. It's been put forward by our projects team as that's presented to us. I haven't got an answer to that.
Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Abs.
Yeah, if I'm understanding things correctly, the red line includes all of the relevant areas that have been raised as concerns by my colleague this evening. Is there any possibility of us conditioning it as part of the approval here tonight?
In conditioning?
Well, things like the railings and I can't do the speed as we established in the last application, but.
Well, 40 miles per hour has been passed by the speed limit review, so I'm expecting that to be implemented in the coming years. Railings, I would suggest that I'm assuming on the A339.
Yes, of course. Sorry, it was explained where the problem was.
Yes,
and it just so happens that the red line on our application this evening includes all of the relevant areas. So I'm just asking, can we? As part of this application?
I would suggest not as this planning application, but certainly I would, the ward members and the Greenham Parish Council could make representations to highway officers within traffic management and road safety and the projects team.
To see that done.
I can perhaps raise it as a concern with them, but policy is regards to railings and any other sort of items on the highway is that they're not put in unless they become required because we always aim to reduce the amount of stuff that is actually within the highway, like railings and signs and other items.
Yeah,
But if we think it's required, then it's.
Well, I'm only speaking as it's my ward and my parish, so I'm in total agreement with what the previous speaker said. So we'll bring that to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? I mean, I think from the chair, it's probably not quite appropriate for me to make a comment, but I know the ward member made a specific comment regarding the 339, which of course is outside. And I have to make the point, I was on the TV in 2019 asking for 40 mile an hour as well. So that's why I moved out in another area. Right, can we open the debate, please? Councillor Hooker.
Yeah, I'll open it up, Chairman. I don't think there's much to debate here, so it's got to be done. I think I'm quite happy to propose that this go forward.
Councillor Williston, seconded.
Very happy to second.
Yeah.
Okay, further comments? No? Okay, all those in favour? Recommendation? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Anything we have to, any? Wait. Okay. Sorry, was that a comment? It